urban legends and ghosts can conjure up nightmares. Supernatural Research Society, a professional paranormal team that travels from city to city to set the record straight. With a small camera crew, we team up with others to hunt down the truth behind the biggest urban legends and haunts. You will witness extreme, raw, and highly dangerous situations that should never be duplicated on your own. Real investigations, real paranormal. The record will be set straight on Ghost Legends. A city with its renowned cuisine, nightlife, and celebration of diverse French, African, and American cultures, New Orleans is the place of magic. Its most famous resident was the Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau, who passed away in 1881. Marie, a practitioner of New Orleans-style voodoo, was a healer and someone who helped many during difficult times. However, one of the things that separates her from many other practitioners was the belief that she had the ability to appear in multiple places at one time. Even though there may be some differences between the way New Orleans-style voodoo was practiced during Marie's time compared to today, it will be interesting to find out if she is pleased with the way New Orleans-style voodoo is presented and practiced currently. On our quest, we journey throughout the city of New Orleans to gain a better understanding of New Orleans voodoo along with Marie Laveau. This brings us to our first stop, Hands of Fate.
Hello, I'm Samuel Bowling. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a spiritualist medium. What does that mean exactly? That means I talk to dead people. Through all of this awakening with the mediumship and helping a lot of people along the way and through the readings, I've witnessed a lot of crazy stories and things that people want to call paranormal. And as I start to help people and see more, I had to write a book. And in the book, it's 12 stories of some really interesting clients and what I can only call spiritual overlays or spiritual hitchhikers. But it ponders the question of what if mental illness and some of the other things we see with people like addiction might actually be spiritual attachment. And that is one reason why I had to write the book, to show people that the world's a much more mystical place, and sometimes we have to address it far from science, far from doctors, and we have to take it back to the spiritual roots, because that's kind of the core of what we are. We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
What was it that made Marie Laveau stand out among others? Was it her behavior caused by mental illness? Did she have a spiritual attachment that gave her unique abilities? Or was it something else? Before the main question can be answered, we first have to have a better understanding of what Marie Laveau practiced. We stopped by the spiritual shop Botanica Macumba and interviewed voodoo priest Demetrius Lacroix.
My name is Demetrius Lacroix. I'm a Louisana of Haitian Voodoo and Kimandero. Haitian Voodoo and Voodoo at large was brought to the New World, the Caribbean and North America and South America through the transatlantic slave trade. The conditions of this transatlantic slave trade did not allow for the free expression of their religious beliefs, and so they had to use the cultural tradition of Catholicism to disguise their traditions. They used the saints primarily as masks for these individuals, these individual spirits.
Now that we have an understanding of what Marie practiced, we tracked Balthazar Ashantisan, a voodoo priest at Voodoo Authentica, to learn some of her stories.
Hi guys, my name is Balthazar Ashantisan. I am a voodoo priest at Voodoo Authentica. I am a traditional New Orleans style voodoo priest, which is a combination of the African and Haitian traditions. I've been asked to speak a little bit about Marie Laveau. Now, before I get into any of her stories, I'd like to say that Marie Laveau was instrumental in making it so that people in New Orleans could practice openly. So depending on which side of the line you were on, she was either famous or infamous. Now, one of my favorite stories about Marie Laveau, when she was crowned queen, shall we say. She didn't claim the title. She was always Mama Marie to everybody. She was always Mama. She was not an initiated mambo, contrary to certain television shows. But one of my favorite stories is when Marie was at the height of her power, when she was famous round the world, a Haitian mambo moved into town. And that Haitian mambo was so jealous. She swore up and down she could steal Marie's power and put it all into a doll that was about 3 foot tall. Okay? Yeah, that wasn't 3 feet. But the doll was about 3 foot tall and sat on the center of this woman's altar in the middle of her home. She kept running around behind Marie's back and spreading all these rumors and malicious intent about Marie. And Marie said, I got your number. You've done told me that doll is a power source for you. Within days, Marie walked up into that woman's home, walked out with the doll, and made it known that she had the doll. When the Haitian mambo went to the police to talk about stolen property, the police went to Marie Laveau. She says, it's not stolen. She says it's a doll that represents me. That means it's my property. And possession is 9/10 of the law.
Intrigued by the stories of Marie Laveau, we wanted to see the sights for ourselves. We went on a haunted history tour led by Mr. Laszlo, who later told us more about her.
Hi, my name is Laszlo Aloisa. I live in the French Quarter. I am a local tour guide with haunted history tours where I do a combination of history and local ghost legend tours, and also educate people about voodoo. Marie Laveau came along. Voodoo was around for a good hundreds of years before she came along, and most of her time she was actually raised mostly Catholic, but shortly after her first husband disappeared, she started taking on the practice of voodoo more because she had a grandmother who was a voodoo herb doctor and another grandmother who was a Native American herb doctor. So one of the things that free women of color could do, because they were limited, free people of color were people who were born free, and they had as many rights as anyone else to a large degree. It was a matter of different degrees. One of the things women could do was they could be hairdressers. So she would go to the top houses of some white Creole women, and she would do their hair, and she would hear about things like who were having affairs in Creole society, or who were political rivals. And not only would they ask her to do their hair, but they found out that she had a grandmother who was an herb doctor, so they started asking her to do herb work for her. So she just happened to be born under a lot of different conditions, a lot of things that she knew, and a lot of changing times, and a lot of things that she had access to. And this is part of her versatility and part of what made her, in a short time, even though that she hadn't practiced voodoo till late in life, she became the voodoo queen of New Orleans in a short time by making use of all these different facets.
Marie Laveau stood out from other practitioners due to her willingness and ability to help others in need, including those with different religious beliefs. Before we begin our paranormal investigation to find out if she is pleased with how voodoo is practiced today, we stopped by our experts one more time to see if they had anything additional to add before we begin.
The first time I came to New Orleans, it was a pretty amazing experience because I was hearing all these stories around town. I took one of the mule cart rides, and they were talking about the Laveau house. They were talking about the ghosts. They're talking about the voodoo and the hoodoo, which I knew little pieces of that I had experienced in different parts of my life. But everybody started talking about Marie Laveau, and that really started to intrigue me. Who is this Marie Laveau person? And as I started to hear more and more stories of her, there's possibilities that there were 3 Maries, not just one. But there's all of these stories about how everyone came to her for healing and how she would take care of people. And I kind of looked at that and I'm like, wow, this is a whole nother way of spirituality. And it's really not too far off from a lot of other things as well. When you start to study hoodoo, voodoo, and all of these other religions and spiritualities, they have very many common lines, all trying to go to one source, trying to go back to creation, creator God. Spirits are a huge part of the voodoo as well. So being here in New Orleans, hearing these stories, I had to check out more about Marie Laveau. And so everybody says you've got to go to her grave. So I remember going to St. Louis Cemetery one and following everybody to what they said was Marie's grave. And it was pretty sad because there were people leaving offerings there, but there were also people trying to take away and desecrate the grave. Under the belief is they could take maybe some of her power or have her protect them. And it really was kind of astonishing to me, the lack of respect for someone who was a healer, that was to take care of people. But then as I heard more of the stories, as I was talking to a few people by the tomb, they're like, wait a second, you need to come over here. I want to show you another place. And they took me across the cemetery to a second tomb, and they're like, there's a belief that her body may actually be buried here, which would have been her daughter's tomb. And it's an unmarked tomb. And so as you start to get into the stories of Marie, they just start unfolding in all of these magical ways.
Marie Laveau led public rituals here in New Orleans on Congo Square every Sunday. Marie Laveau would attend the St. Louis Cathedral on Sunday and then would lead the congregation or members from that congregation to her ritual on Congo Square. Congo Square is part of the legacy of people of color having the ability to assemble on certain days of the week to be able to, have some versions of expression or some versions of a release from the woes of slavery, which was happening at the same time as these ceremonies. Her ceremonies were interesting in that they catered to everyone of a particular class of people, i.e. people that needed help or needed some kind of assistance. Marie Laveau was known to be an advocate for people who needed assistance and especially able to curry these favors because of her position and her ability to be in places of privilege and power by her racial relationship in the city. Marie Laveau was a hairdresser and used those connections and used the ability to gossip and communicate and to be able to correspond with people to not only assist people magically but also socially. Marie Laveau is a really great example of the kind of community themes that we see in other Caribbean traditions of African practice, and with her is seen a lot of practices that were maintained here in New Orleans before the entrance of America into Louisiana. Louisiana, when it became a state, Governor Claiborne descended upon the city and began to change its ways because New Orleans was running like a European colony, and what was now the new America.
Remember what I said, Marie made it so that we could all practice openly. She did this by going to then priest Père Antoine, who was at the Cathedral of St. Louis Basilica, and made a deal with him. If you allow us to practice our beliefs in peace, we will then let you have full pews every Sunday. Gotta tell you, to this day, pews are still full every Sunday. So Marie was influential in a lot of ways. One of the other stories is that she blessed the water here and blessed the square. So there are 3 things you're not supposed to do here. Drink tap water, because if you drink tap water, you're always going to have a longing to come back. Walk across Jackson Square barefoot, because if you do that, New Orleans will hook into you. You will always be called back to New Orleans. And 3, never mess with the voodoo of New Orleans. She didn't play. She was a wise woman. She was sought out by everyone from politicians around the world to local people. She did everything for everyone. and even gave selflessly when it came to outbreaks of yellow fever.
Now, there's a saying in Voodoo that Voodoo does not exclude, it includes. And what that means is there were a lot of different influences here under what was known as the Creoles, people from either France or Spain who were born on this soil, and they're also their African servants. After a while, we were a big amalgamation of a number of different things. When a lot of the West Africans realized they could no longer worship their Orisha from Africa, or what they called the Loa in the Caribbean, they just basically said, well, what is on the menu? And if you know your Catholicism, that would be the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and then all these archangels and saints that help carry their prayers to heaven. So when they heard about this, their ears perked up and said, well, tell me more about these archangels and these saints. They sound familiar to me. And all of a sudden they realize is that there are hundreds of them, and all of them aren't always recognized at once. One area might have a patron saint or patron angel, and the same with the Voodoos. They didn't worship all their Loa or their Orisha at the same time. Or there might be different ones. They knew that for every Orisha they could not necessarily worship because it was forbidden by the top officials of the church. There was a saint that was very similar. They couldn't burn a candle to their god Ogun, a war deity, so maybe they would burn a candle to Saint Mike or the Archangel Michael, because in all of his pictures he had a big flaming sword. And while they're so similar,
Hey, long time no see. How you doing, Sam? Good to see you. Good to see y'all, man. Good to meet you. Man, doing good. Anthony, how you doing? Doing good? Y'all, of course, we're good. We're fixing to start the investigation of Marie Laveau. This is where it's reported that she actually did a lot of her rituals whenever she left the cathedral on Sundays, etc. We're also going to investigate Saint Anne, which is reported that you can actually see her spirit walking up and down after services. We're also going to investigate right in front of her house to see if we can pick up anything. Now, the main question that we're after is she satisfied with the way that Voodoo is practiced in today's society? Now, of course, we want to make sure that we can establish communication with her first, but if we can get her to answer that question, our goal is met. So we'll go ahead, we're going to split up into teams of 3, and one of us will take the street, the other team will take her house, and the other team will take Congo Square.
It could be because the rivers conduct water and this what's happening.
Well, it's interesting because I'm used to them crossing, but walking over here, it does this weirder thing. It like opens up like a gate. No, it runs the energy right through me, like it starts to give me goosebumps. So check out here for temperature and see what's going on, like in this circle right around in here, and just come out about 6 feet from it. I'm gonna do another walkout and see. It's just usually what would cross when I hit something.
The temperature's dropping.
Look at this.
This is where Marie Laveau's house was, because it's been gone a long time. So let's see if we get any action here. I mean, before I can get my rods up good, they're crossing. Marie, please wait until I ask the question verbally. And cross them for me, please. Thank you. I want to know if you're still around here. Obviously you are. Thank you very much. I'm crossing. Are you satisfied the way that Voodoo is being portrayed now?
What you got today?
Digital infrared thermometer.
Same another visual infrared thermometer. Laser.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe we'll be able to rule some stuff out.
Yeah, I tried using.
Of course, I'll be using the K2 meter today.
Yeah, I tried using my Gauss meter, but it was going off at every.
Right. Well, listen, y'all. They say that you can see her spirit walking down this road. After services on her way over to Congo Square. So, that's where everything is. So, at any rate, well, you want to go ahead and start? Ask the question. It's like freaking wide open.
And then it goes back up.
They're opening wide. Usually I get them to cross when there's something going on of an energy flow, so it makes me wonder. But like I said, is it the tree? We have all the live oaks here. Is it the tree roots that create something? Because all live oaks have the same root system. They all are kind of intertwined.
And they have an energy signature.
Yeah, they do. The other thing is, are we on a ley line since Congo Square is
Yes.
PowerPoint?
We are on a ley line. I looked up the grid pattern, and it runs right through this area.
Okay, so do we want to? Oh, and this is weird. Stand there and tell me what you feel physically. It makes my stomach spin.
That's a no. I mean, clear no. She doesn't like it. Should it go back to the way you did voodoo? Got a good yes on that. Anything on the pendulum?
So far, nothing. I will ask. Is there anything that your spirit needs?
Getting circular movement.
Well, where's your tent? At 91.4, 91.3, 91.
He's reading about 89, so it's about average. All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and start. Marie Laveau, if you're here, can you light this toy up for me? Light it up to a yellow if you can. Check that out. She's here, y'all. Light it up. There's no, look, as you can see, there's no power lines anywhere. These are really old buildings, as well. The power lines probably are going to be, you can see, up there, they're going to be in the back part, as well. So that's really, pretty cool.
Good.
It makes me lightheaded too.
I can see why they chose this place.
Yeah.
There was a lot of energy to feed off
Well,
of.
it's natural grounding energy, I think, from the trees that's helping ground some of it too.
Yes, but the trees would have been a little different back then when they were practicing in the hallway.
These trees.
There would have been more surrounding this area, so it would have been even more powerful if you think about it.
Yeah, like I said, we're in the same root system, so how long does the root system go? I want to check out over here and see what's going on up in this main center over here.
Yes, I've heard reports of a temperature variance.
Okay.
And that's the area where she was dancing.
So what was that, like a couple of degrees difference over there?
It was a 4-degree difference as it went, and then every foot it went a little bit more.
Pretty strong circular. Wow. Thank you. Good stuff. Thank you. Is there anything that can be done to fix the perception of voodoo as people see it today?
All right. What's the temperature again?
Still sitting right at 89, 90.
What about you?
G, still 90.
Still up to 90?
Still 90. 89, 90.
I'm not getting anything on the K2 meter right now at all. See, not getting anything on this K2. But I was getting something though whenever I asked. I couldn't ask, but why didn't you like that? All right, so I'm gonna ask again.
That's excellent about it. Yes.
Right there.
Especially here.
Well, the thing is, look at it's weird. This one is almost magnetic. It's literally pointing almost directly at the tree. It's just to the right side of it here.
All right. I put down the meters.
Okay.
Yeah, it does feel like spider web.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Like one got wrapped around my
Okay. All right.
two,
Oh, you went ahead.
I want to step in closer to the tree, but I want to just do a little tobacco offering to her.
Yes.
As a thank
yes.
you, which is a Native American, what I would do typically,
106 degrees over there.
to honor the ancestors is we have to give them something. We're asking for information, and if you're going to do that, I think it's always good to honor them for what we're asking them for their questions. So just
Wow. Strong response.
did.
Thank you. Please stop the pain.
See, whatever kid keeps dropping over here.
It goes from 100 to 11 to 108, but over here it goes back up. I dropped again.
Marie, if you're here with us, which I feel like that you are, do you like how voodoo is practiced in today's society? If you can you light this toy up in my hand? It's lighting up. It's lighting up. It's lighting up. Strong. Now I'm getting a yes on this. Hold. Wait a minute.
I'm not getting any tippering.
False reading. I think it's because I'm too close to that power line.
That is a receiver. That's an antenna.
It comes to you now asking for information about this space and about the magic here. We ask that you give us clear information. We ask you, Marie Laveau, if you are here, your presence or your spirit, you may come forward and show us in a very true way. To any and all masters, we thank you for your presence. We thank you to the Lord. We thank you to the Baron. We thank you to all the gates here in the magical city of New Orleans. Holy Spirit. Oh, excellent. Want to start some questions?
Yes.
Yeah. I bet this was where her front porch was. Don't you think? The way the houses are laid out. Wow. And that's on the window facing. That's not on the glass, so you know it's not anything from inside. Marie, did you set up shop over at Congo Square and finish answering the question? Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's gonna have power to go somewhere. Any which way it goes, there's some sort of interference. So let's go back down this way a little bit. All right, I'm gonna ask the question again. Marie Laveau, do you like how voodoo is being practiced in today's society? If you can, light this toy up for me. It's not lighting up. What do y'all? What's your temp?
I was getting around 80.
Anywhere from 87 to up to 90.
Is there anyone here that would like to talk to us? Okay, they don't want to talk to us.
Well, you know what? It's weird. You
have to tell them out or in.
Out or in? All right. In, cross for yes. Exit for no.
They definitely understand and they are definitely responsive.
Does someone here want to tell their story? Yes. Okay. All right. But why don't you ask some questions, see if they respond to that.
What about, I know there's a voodoo priestess here. Is she practicing close to the way you were? I know she's not doing it exact, but maybe close. Wow. Thank you very much. If you will, cross the line.
Sounds like she likes her.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. Marie Laveau, if you don't like the way that voodoo is practiced in today's society, can you light this gadget up in my hand?
It's lighting up. It wasn't lighting up before. See that?
Yeah.
It was not lighting up before. And it just flickered off.
I just dropped to 79 and back up to 80.
Yeah, I bumped into. You
bumped
backed
into
Yeah,
me?
you backed into.
And-
Yeah.
oh, okay.
I was pointing out to more of these cables up here, like just like I was on the other side.
You what now?
I was pointing out to.
Okay. We are here trying to understand how those who have passed feel about how voodoo is practiced in the modern world. We know many of you came here. This is a sacred place for you. Circle for yes, straight line for no. How do you feel that people are practicing voodoo appropriately and honoring your legacy?
When you say that, I get a slight headache.
Do you?
Excuse me, pardon me. It's a little bit of spirit processing.
We know there's a voodoo priest here. She didn't like the way. I mean, I didn't even finish asking the questions, and that was an obvious no. I'll let you ask some questions with that.
Do you think voodoo and other religions can work hand in hand?
I would count that as a no.
That's
Well,
very
they're
nice.
here.
Yeah, no, they are. I'm getting this waiver on the milligallows.
Please stop it so I can ask another question. Thank you. Oh.
This tree is special to people that visit here. This might be a hotline, area for
Yeah,
spirits
hotspot.
to congregate, I guess.
Yes.
It's a powerful. They're actually, I think they're telling me classes in the other areas. I think this is pretty seen. I think when we talk about the spiritual world, there is an overlay, almost like in Photoshop, where you get another layer.
Yeah.
There's a few extra layers here that you can see through.
Wow. Well, I asked that because she practiced voodoo and she was Catholic.
Did the Catholic here have a problem with you practicing voodoo? We're getting a yes on that.
Thank you. Please tell me that.
Yeah, but right here though, it did not go off until I asked that question. It did not go off until I asked the question. So this little area right here is safe to say. It's still not going off. It's not going off at all. You know? So I think that we got a real hit. It's very active. Wow, I tell you that Marie Laveau was something else, y'all. It was.
It was not an easy investigation at all.
No, it wasn't. You know, and I mean, there's so much history, you know, of New Orleans, and you know, and anytime that you have a lot of history like that, you're gonna have, you know, possible contamination, you know, as well.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. New Orleans was contaminated. So many people have died there and lived there. It's on top of ley lines. It's got above ground power lines. It's got old sewer pipes.
Right.
It was almost impossible to get anything clean.
Absolutely. So, but you know, I've looked through all the video footage, you know, already. So let's take a look at when you were out there at Congo Square.
Walk out and see. It's just usually what we cross when I hit something.
The temperature's dropping.
Look at this. It's like freaking wide open.
And then it goes back up.
They're opening wide. Usually I get them to cross when there's something going on, an energy
it makes me wonder. But like I said, is it the tree? We have all the live oaks here. Is it the tree roots that create something? Because all live oaks have the same root system. They all are kind of intertwined.
And they have an energy signature.
Yeah, they do. The other thing is, are we on a ley line since Congo Square is a power point?
We are on a ley line. I looked up the grid pattern, and it runs right through this area.
Okay, so do we want to? Oh, and this is weird. If you stand there and tell me what you feel physically, it makes my stomach spin.
Good.
It makes me lightheaded too.
I can see why they chose this place.
Yeah.
There was a lot of energy to feed off
Well,
of.
it's natural. It's natural grounding energy, I think, from the trees. It's helping ground some of it too.
Yes.
Someone here wants to tell their story. Yes. Okay. Alright. Why don't you ask the question, see if they respond to that.
Okay. We are here trying to understand how those who have passed feel about how voodoo is practiced in the modern world. We know many of you came here. This is a sacred place for you. Circle for yes, straight line for no.
Wow, that was incredible. So what was y'all's experiences out there at Congo Square?
There was hot spots area where probably were bonfire areas.
Actual temperature differences, and different people walking in and comparing notes later, not mentioning it at the time. Walk in and the same spot consistently was a higher temperature. Same spots were consistently lower temperatures in the square itself. We checked the progression of the sunlight, so it wasn't just radiant heat. It was actual variances in the temperatures.
Oh, wow.
Mainly on the area where they would have been dancing and by the tree, spirit tree.
Well, do you think that any of that could have been contaminated?
I think, considering where the power lines were and like that the K2 readings, stuff like that, yes. However, the temperature variances, no. Not where we were getting them. And they were consistent for everyone, and we weren't comparing notes until afterwards, and everyone went to the same spot.
Gotcha. Well, Sam, is he's well known, in the area. He owns Hands of Fate there.
He was a definite asset.
Right, and in the video I noticed that he had those dowsing rods, and you used them as well. How were they working for you?
Pretty good. I almost got my eye poked out by one.
Because they say,
They were real responsive.
they say that dowsing rods can be easily manipulated. Did you feel that you were manipulating them in some way?
Not at all. I want to know if you're still around here. Obviously you are. Thank you very much. I'm crossing. Are you satisfied the way that voodoo is being portrayed now? That's a no. I mean, clear no. She doesn't like it.
Is there anything that your spirit needs?
In circular movement.
Goes from 100 to 11 to 108, but over here goes back up. Dropped again.
I bet this was where her front porch was. Don't you think? The way the houses are laid out.
Well, I'd have to say, they definitely was getting something out there. Again, Mr. Bill, he likes to use those dowsing rods, and it's hard to say. Because a lot of people, in the paranormal community, feel like that those rods, can be manipulated just like a pendulum, because you were using the pendulum, out there at Congo Square, and of course, Mr. Schuyler, was also using, a pendulum, as well. Now,
Because it was hard to use the electronic equipment because of all the cross-contamination with the city.
Absolutely, you know, and one of the things that I saw was that Alex, who's also a member of LGG there, he was getting some temperature variances, but I don't know if that was really enough, you know, because maybe it was like 1 or 2 degree changes, you know, in certain spots.
1 or 2 degree changes can be affected by cloud cover, by cars being too close because we were right there on the side of the road.
Right.
There's heat from exhaust, there's reflective pavement. So I honestly could not include the temperature unless it's a 3 or more degree difference. I wouldn't.
And the other thing that I noticed was that Bill was assuming that he was talking to a particular person without asking, you know, at first if that was indeed, you know, the person or not. Now, he was getting responses, but because of the rich history of New Orleans, it's really hard to tell, you know, if you're actually talking to that person or not.
If you say voodoo priestess, well, there's been how many in the last couple of 100 years?
A lot.
Well, that's not specific is the problem. And at the same time, you can't assume that, okay, maybe it is Marie Laveau. Was it Marie Laveau 1, 2, or 3? There's 3 generations of Marie Laveaus who all were practitioners, who all resided in that area, in that house, in fact.
Wasn't Marie Laveau's grandmother voodoo priestess as well?
Yes. Her grandmother was the first one off the boat who was a practitioner. She's the one that is credited with bringing the religion to New Orleans area.
Haitian, if I remember right.
Yeah. Haitian is a slight difference, so yes.
91.
He's reading about 89, so it's about average. All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and start. Marie, if you're here, can you light this toy up for me? Light it up to a yellow if you can. Check that out. She's here, y'all. Light it up. There's no, look, as you can see, there's no power lines anywhere. These are really old buildings, you know, as well. The power lines probably are going to be, as you can see, you know, up there, they're going to be in the back part, you know, as well. So that's really, you know, pretty cool.
89.90.
I'm not getting anything on the K2 meter right now at all. See, not getting anything on this K2. But I was getting something though whenever I asked. I think I asked for why it's yelling like that. All right, so I'm going to ask again, Marie, if you're here with us, which I feel like that you are, do you like how voodoo is practiced in today's society? If you can you light this toy up in my hand? It's lighting up. It's lighting up. It's lighting up. Strong.
Then we finally, you know, we did another base reading, and we finally got to an area that didn't have, you know, wasn't setting off the K2 or anything. And when I asked the question, if Marie, I said, you know, Marie, you know, if you're here, do you like the way that voodoo is being practiced today? The K2 did light up, and it wasn't staying at a certain color. It was going back and forth.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, so, you know, but again, was it really and truly Marie? I mean, because you have a, you know, like you said,
it could have been a Marie.
It could be
and
a Marie.
They were all practitioners, so it's still a legitimate question and a legitimate answer.
Correct. And unfortunately, none of us asked Marie Laveau I, you know, are you satisfied? You know, and
I think we're too caught up in the fact that we were actually getting a legitimate response.
Correct.
When you compare it with, when you're talking about the cross-contamination from a wire, that's going to consistently go to that one setting, depending on your proximity to the wire. So it going back and forth kind of weeds out contamination to a degree on it.
Absolutely. And Marcus, I can tell you right now, don't make my mistake or her mistake or Corey's mistake. Always specify Marie 1, 2, or 3. Are you here?
Make sure who you're.
Marie was born in 1902.
And just for chuckles, is there a Marie 4 or 5 or 6 that I need to know about? You know, because really nobody really knows for a fact. You know, they know that there's 1, 2, and 3, but I have read where there may have been a 4th one.
Actually, the line did continue, and Marie is still a very popular name in the bloodline, and they are still very heavily involved in the religion in the area. We did find that out.
Unfortunately, you left just before I found that out. So they are still practicing at Bayou St. John.